So hello, everyone. We are going to start with our program in about 2 minutes or so. We're just going to let all of our attendees filter in. So stay tuned. So good morning or afternoon. If you're on the East Coast, it just tipped over into afternoon. I'm Susan Bocamazzo. I'm the managing director for the legal group here at Bridgetower Media, which includes the Lawyers Weekly brands. I'm going to be your moderator for today's program. We are going to be discussing AI and personal injury law, how to navigate ethical challenges and how to enhance client advocacy. I think everybody knows AI is quickly transforming personal injury law, speeding up things like case evaluation, but it also has some risks, including ethical risks, the risk of hallucinations, and concerns about confidentiality. So our speakers today are going to cover a range of topics, including how AI can improve case evaluation, how you can reduce those ethical risks, and how it can help you elevate client advocacy while still keeping that important human element in place. A couple of housekeeping matters before we start. First, the program is going to be recorded, and you'll be getting a copy of the recording later in the week. Secondly, we are going to be taking questions. There's a Q&A bubble at the bottom of your screen, and you can go in there at any time and add a question in. We're going to be talking to 4 panelists today. And so to kick things off, I want to introduce our title sponsor, Rowan McNamee from Mary Technology. Rowan?
Thanks, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone. Like Susan mentioned, I'm Rowan. I'm one of the co-founders of Mary Technology. I was previously a lawyer myself in Melbourne, Australia, if you couldn't tell from my accent. But at Mary, what we've built is a fact management system, purpose-built for personal injury law. We take the messy, disorganized bundles of documents that lawyers deal with every day, and we turn them into a searchable fact record that's therefore more usable by AI with lowered risk of hallucinations and other factual errors. But excited to be here on the panel, looking forward to everyone's questions. And yeah, thank you again, Susan.
Thank you, Rowan. JP.
Yeah, so so JP Sun, I'm a Chief Legal Officer at Burbit. So we're a global leader in AI-powered transcription, captioning, legal technology solutions. We serve other verticals as well, including education, media, government. We have our deposition assistance solution. It's we call it Legal Advisor. It combines our leading speech-to-text technology stack with real-time AI insights. And that enables litigators to instantly search, summarize, and extract key testimony from either live or recorded depositions or arbitrations, mediations, any legal proceeding really. For example, flagging discrepancies between the deposition testimony and the rest of the evidentiary record. Advisor streamlines trial prep and discovery as well, turning raw testimony to actionable intelligence on the spot.
Thank you. Alex, can you introduce yourself to the folks attending?
Thanks, Susan. So my name is Alex, VP of AI Technology at Gemini Legal, and we're a legal services firm serving work comp attorneys in California specifically, including subpoena services, and now with our in-house AI team, AI intelligence for medical records and trying to ascertain case insights from those records.
Thank you. And Brian.
Hello, everybody. As you can see, I am not McKay Farrell. Unfortunately, he had some travel difficulties today, so I'm pinch hitting for him. My name is Brian Billig. I was the president of Needle Software for about 10 years. I am now the VP of Customer Education at Assembly, where we have our Neos cloud-based case management platform. We've been embedding AI directly into law firms' AI case management systems. It's worked out very well. And my specific role is to make sure that all of our users know how to use the platform and all those individual tools successfully. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Susan.
Well, thank you all. So let's dive into this because, as I noted at the outset, this is a very important issue for personal injury lawyers, all lawyers, but personal injury lawyers in particular. So to start out, I'd like to ask all of you, and I'll go around the horn, if you will, and ask all of you this same question. And that is, why is AI such a pressing issue for personal injury firms? Rowan, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Well, obviously, personal injury law, you're dealing with thousands and thousands of pages of complex information. Often you're billing on a contingency basis, so efficiency is really crucial in personal injury lawyers in particular. However, due to the nature of the documents you're going through and dealing with every day, AI tools so far have been more difficult to use in this arena than in other areas. And so I almost feel the personal injury lawyers have the most to gain, but in some ways, generic AI tools have somewhat been letting them down. So I think really capitalizing on the momentum of this new technology is really pressing in the PI space. And it's also where there's a massive opportunity. So it's natural that PI lawyers are interested and ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Brian, what is your sense of why this is particularly pressing for personal injury firms and lawyers?
Well, I think Rowan's going to be my new best friend because we are exactly aligned. It's particularly pressing because personal injury is uniquely focused on productivity in a way that other types of law firms may not be, which is exactly what artificial intelligence is most helpful in producing. So, if the entire purpose of the firm is efficiency, then that efficiency and the associated economics of it are paramount. So AI adoption is going to be absolutely critical because it's already happening. It's already happening across the legal field. So to remain efficient and competitive and productive, AI adoption is not going to be optional for PI firms. They've got to do it. They've just got to do it correctly.
That's a good point about the volume often that these PI practices have. JP, what are your thoughts on why you think this is particularly important for personal injury lawyers?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll echo the economic side of things. I don't need to repeat that. I'll just add, we're seeing AI across the board. It's legal tech, but let's remember, as consumers, we're seeing more and more AI being used by just society in general. That's already, we're seeing that creating more and more data, documents, evidence, surveillance video, you name it. So, that's, there's an opportunity there to use these new technologies to parse through that data much more quicker, much more efficiently. You have to, because, it's just going to grow in volume over time. And all of this, of course, the consumers and users, that's often going to be sort of your plaintiffs and your clients in these types of cases, whether it's medical malpractice, torts, you name it. So we're going to have to use these technologies to meet these new requirements and these new volumes, so we can take advantage of the opportunities that it's bringing to us.
And Alex.
So I would say personal injury law is the most ripe for disruption because it's largely documentation based and not based on creating a narrative. And so, the devil is in the details, and that can affect case evaluations dramatically. So if you're a personal injury law firm and you're reticent or late to adopt AI, you're quite literally facing uphill competition of more advanced technology and tooling that other law firms have figured out how to use safely.
Okay, well, thank you all. So let's dig into some details here. Rowan, can you give our attendees a couple of bullet points on how personal injuries can go about adopting AI successfully?
Sure. So a couple key points here. I think one is to start small, pick painful bottlenecks that are clearly inefficient, and try and attempt to solve that first. I think the firms that are being successful are not trying to overhaul their entire business in one go. The second being, I think this is a different era of technology than years gone past in terms of onboarding and training. AI is starting to step more into the actual legal practice as opposed to just a tool that acts, as a system of record, for example. Onboarding and training needs to be front of mind when adopting these tools. It needs regular updates as well. The speed at which these tools are improving is incredible. And so it's not something you can just buy, put it into your practice and then leave it be. Regular training. The third point is about identifying champions. So it's natural with technology like this that some individuals at the firm are going to stand out, embrace the new tools faster than others, and see the clearest ROI first. So I think actually measuring the ROI with these champions early, understanding how it actually can provide benefits to the firm, whether that's financially or for other reasons, measuring that clearly, seeing how it works with those champions, and then taking the time to try and expand to the rest of the group.
Okay, thank you. So personal injury firms, by definition, are dealing with medical records in a lot of instances because we're dealing with injured people. Alex, can you talk a bit how AI can improve medical record analysis, case valuation, while not running afoul of any ethical issues for lawyers?
Absolutely. So for cases where there is lengthy medical history, it is imperative that checks and balances and controls are used with AI to make sure that results are accurate. We all know that AI has limited memory, right? And sort of amateur usage of it is to just dump everything in there and ask it a question. Open-ended prompts can cause hallucinations. There's a myriad of issues with you using out-of-the-box tools. But when you use special purpose-built tools for your case, you can get highly accurate medical chronologies. You can get analysis of pre-existing conditions and causation flags. You can better organize damages, map treatments to alleged injuries, and et cetera. There's also a key opportunity for doing comparable case research and then also research on specific judges. Tools like LexisNexis AI typically offer that to mid-market and enterprise. And then lastly, being able to draft demand packages that are exhaustive and extremely detailed is one of the key drivers of case valuation. So I would say, all of those are very text heavy, very analysis and research heavy. And AI can be a very powerful tool to surface those insights and details. And in some cases, we're seeing it can be more accurate than human work and review, at least, at the level of going through these documents. You send a 20,000 page medical record and have a bunch of people do a chronology on it and send the same thing to AI, you're going to get the results back faster. And depending on how you structure and build that artificial intelligence system, it can be much more accurate, much more comprehensive. And devil being in the details, that can significantly affect case value.
Thank you. JP, a related question for you. How is AI being used to support things like evaluating potential outcomes, determining a proper settlement value, which is, of course, as we all know, most cases settle. How are law firms using it to do that for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little outside of what we do, but I'm aware of solutions that are looking at data from prior cases, and it's essentially a big data statistical exercise to kind of tie those tie those prior outcomes to these settlement values. But again, it's not really something in our wheelhouse.
Okay, thank you. Brian, can you talk a bit how AI can be integrated into your case management platform to streamline things like intake and settlement
Certainly.
tracking?
Everybody brought up some very good points, and when a lot of people look at AI, they look at that final endpoint, that final result. But some of my favorite aspects of it are what happens along the way. So if you're looking at implementing AI for your firm, look at all the tasks necessary for like a successful workflow, and then identify all the tasks that would qualify as time burning for your staff that they're doing over and over and over again, but are just, taking a productivity hit. Those are the biggest opportunities to leverage AI to speed up your entire pipeline from intake, from case management, from settlement preparation, the whole thing. There's a variety of applications that would help with this, but for features, specific examples would be document review, data extraction, which is the better version of data entry, pulling data out of large documents and making sure it's captured and recorded properly within the case. This is where medical records and accident reports and deposition transcripts all come into play. One of the ones that I love is case summaries, just a live rolling case summary to make sure that anyone opening a case knows exactly where things stand at a glance without having to hunt and peck for important information. I see Rowan nodded, probably something that you guys are involved in as well. And to take that one step further, client communication is key. You can absolutely automate standard client communications or even get AI case summaries pushed to Outlook so that when you're responding to email inquiries, quickly and easily without having to constantly look things up. With the speed of AI development, like Rowan said, it's moving really, really fast. And all these new features that they're all already possible or will be very soon. It's all happening very, very quickly. We're only scratching the surface of the contributions that AI can make. So my position is it's not just the endpoint. Use it all the way along to take the whole journey and compact it into a faster, successful end result.
So let's talk a little bit about risk management. So JP, as AI tools get integrated into legal workflow, what does responsible adoption look like? How do you balance innovation, which is what this is providing, with risk management for the firm?
Sure. So, touching on a few things, that were mentioned before. First, we've all kind of read about lawyers submitting briefs with completely fabricated case citations, but that can, this hallucination, issue that we hear about all the time, it can rear its head in other situations. So, if you're in a live deposition and you're getting a citation or you're getting a reference to a fact in the documents, you want to make sure that your platform is actually citing in real time or to that source material, so you can have clarity that this is something you can rely upon. I think related to that, bar associations are making it clear that lawyers are expected to understand the capabilities and limitations of any AI that they're using or any technology they're using for client work. So, that means not only do you have to know when it's accurate, when it can fail, but you have to have guardrails and processes to supervise this output depending on how you're using it. Just as you wouldn't delegate a key witness outline to a junior associate without review, you can't delegate blindly to an AI system. The last thing I'd mention is you need to know exactly how your tool is handling the data. Is it being stored? Is it being used to train other models? Is it encrypted in transit at rest? These are important not just to confidentiality, but in certain cases to preserving privilege or even work product. You want to know, is your vendor using the recognized security frameworks, ISO 27K, SOC 2, if you're doing, if you're handling health records, HIPAA. Obviously using a public chatbot that retains prompts could hand your opponent a privilege waiver argument that you never saw coming. High level, I'd say, AI, you want to treat it as a very fast, very bright, but sometimes an inexperienced junior. So you need to give it guidance, check its work, and never forget that you're the one who owns the final judgment.
That's an interesting comparison, to treat it like it's a smart junior associate, not someone who you would, give the keys to the kingdom to. Alex, can you also speak to this issue of hallucinations and bias and how that can affect work product?
Absolutely. So, we all know about AI hallucinations, and perhaps it's a bit of a misnomer since these models are designed to provide answers that are probably correct, right? They're not deterministic, they're not inherently factual. They're there to give answers that please the eyes and ears. And so it's a very powerful tool that you can use, but you need to use it correctly within the legal framework. So there are generally three areas that you want to focus on to improve hallucination rates and to prevent bias. So prompt discipline or tool discipline is extremely important. You need to provide whatever AI tool you're using with factual baselines. Here are the records. Here are the documents for the case. Reference nothing else but this. Here's the jurisdiction that the case is in. Here is the case law that I'm referencing. You never want to just ask it, hey, what kind of case law applies to this situation? Because it may very well invent one, as we've seen in some of the famous cases. So you want to give it the correct inputs and structure your usage of it to be very specific, just like you would with a junior associate or paralegal. Just throw them out in the deep end and see what they come up with, right? And then the second key aspect is grounding. So all AI answers should be backed by a citation, right? And on the tool that we use at Gemini, there are always citations, and we have a PDF on the side so you can click and quickly verify. Which brings me to the third aspect: is human verification is non-negotiable. Every output by an AI tool needs to be verified by a person. Now, you might think, well, what about the efficiency gains of AI? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? And I would say that the great benefit of these AI tools is finding that information, right? It's not necessarily making sure that it's accurate. You can use AI for that at your peril, but attorneys are ultimately responsible for the work product, so they need to have an auditable verification process. Which tool was used, which inputs were provided, which human verified the results, and never ever copy paste from an AI tool into a filing and hit submit.
So keeping with this theme, Rowan, what should AI not be used for, and what should AI be used for? So where do you draw the line?
Yeah. So this is the key principle for me is it's really not a substitute for critical thinking. AI can be helping, giving your team better inputs so they can think more clearly, but not thinking for them. The other portion is about not using it to really drastically shortcut workflows. And so that speaks a bit to what Brian was talking about before. Of course, you could use AI to input a whole bunch of medical records and technically ask it for certain court filings. But there is a reason these steps occur: reviewing these documents, understanding what's in them, understanding the detail. They occur for a reason. Ultimately, it's the lawyer who's responsible for the decisions being made. So skipping those steps, I think, is a critical risk. that wasn't there before. Now, of course, what should you use AI for? We've spoken a bit about this already. Obviously, extracting the facts, creating medical chronologies, of course, with that chain of verification and review side by side taking place. Drafting first drafts, letters of demands, communication with clients, all of these things can be made exponentially quicker. But the key portion is exactly what Alex described earlier, and it's something that's very important to us at Mary as well, is ensuring that the actual review and verification experience is as high a quality as the actual output itself.
So it feels like what's undergirding a lot of this is in adopting AI responsibly is also how do you train your people, and how do you manage the implementation? So Brian, I'm going to ask you to speak to that. What is the training and implementation guidance that you have to help firms do this responsibly?
You hit the nail on the head, and I'm going to double down on what Rowan and Alex shared. So, for Assembly specifically, we literally have our own e-learning platform that we call Neos University. There are a variety of courses for beginners and administrators, etc. But last year, we specifically launched our own Neos AI course. Now, this course has multiple lessons on the different available AI features within Neos, but what we also wanted to do was educate our users on how best to use those tools, as well as help them learn the best ways to approach AI in general to ensure success across the board. We offer these courses completely free, on demand, to anybody who wants to take them. When legal staff really know how to use the tools at their disposal well, everybody benefits. But the flip side of that is that when it comes to AI implementation, you learn by doing. It's like driving a car. You can read about it as much as you want, but until you get behind the wheel and take a ride, you're not going to get a feel for what's going to work for you. So what I tell lawyers is your staff, they're going to experiment. They're already experimenting with AI. They're out there, they're trying things out. So instead, give them a way to do it safely. Give them guidance. Don't use sensitive data, but get familiar with the classic AI functionality. Then, when you and your team have an idea of what's possible, what the potential tools that you want to use are out there, take a look at your internal workflows and see where AI can be applied for the most benefit. Again, it doesn't have to be all at once. I forget if it was Alex or Rowan that said that, but you can take bites, teach them how to use something simple like a document summary, and then expand it into a case summary. And if that's working really well, then you can start saving some real time with the more powerful tools. When it comes to prompts, my recommendation is to start with pre-built versions. Work with experts to give your team prompts that have been professionally designed and developed to start with. But then again, when they get more familiar, they can start tweaking, they can start writing their own and creating their own sort of reusable prompts to get more information out of their cases and more productivity out of their workday. At that point, the staff will start to get really excited about the possibilities. They'll see it happening, right? But you've charted that safe course for them to get there, and then you can expand into ever more areas. So it's all happening fast. That doesn't mean, okay, AI the firm. Like, take your time and educate in stages, and that way the implementation and the gains will be done in the safest way possible.
Rowan, I see you nodding. Do you want to add to the comments about training? You're nodding like this.
Yeah, no, it's just something we experience a lot at Mary. It's very difficult when you just send a tool to 100 people at once or whatever the size of the firm and expect everyone to just nail it on first go. I really think this is one of the, if there's one takeaway today, I do think this is one of the big changes of this technology, is that it's not something you just turn on and it suddenly works exactly the same for everyone. So regular training, regular onboarding, and refresher sessions, whether that's by the vendor or by the team, is super critical in this new era.
See, I knew you and I were going to be friends.
All right, so let's talk a bit about how this increased efficiency is going to free up lawyers to really engage more in client advocacy, right? It's going to enable them to bring the empathy that is probably part of the reason why they're personal injury lawyers to bear. So JP, let me ask you that question. How can AI tools strengthen client advocacy in personal injury cases while still ensuring that lawyers are bringing their personal judgment, the empathy, and all the things that go into training to be a lawyer to their cases?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of said it, Susan. I mean, we, as lawyers, I mean, just not just personal injury, myself and my own daily practice, we're spending so much time these days on administrative tasks, organization tasks, just the practice of law. A lot of it is, essentially pushing paper. So what these tools allow us to do is, remove that friction, clarify the data, and kind of get to the places where humans truly shine. And I think personal injury, this is a place where it's particularly important. You're dealing with, it's not just going to be a sort of a business matter. There's emotions, there's real personal consequences, and as the practitioners on the call will understand, it's a huge part of that is the bedside manner. And the more you can spend on that, and the less, the more you can spend on your clients, the more you can understand their problems, the more you can dig into that, and the less you're spending on these administrative tasks, the better lawyer, the better advocate, the better outcome you're going to get for your clients.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stick with this topic and ask the same question of Brian. Asked you the same question. What can you, how can you still enhance climate advocacy without compromising professional responsibility requirements?
It is a good question. And from my perspective, if AI is going to give you more time, right? If it's going to increase your productivity, if it's going to move everything faster, obviously one of your options is more cases, but one of your other options is to spend some of that time on things that you couldn't before, like advocacy. So, first off, if you're getting this type of efficiency gain, then one of the costs of that gain is to go behind your AI and verify that everything that they're doing is accurate, right? And people are like, oh, I don't have the time. Well, now you do. The whole point of AI is it gave you the time, and now you have the time to do that verification. But then those things that you didn't have time for before, like client communication, engagement, talking with your either first-time clients, repeat clients, or the community at large, it really gives you an opportunity to take advantage of all of those things that you might not have been able to do before. A lot of times when people talk about AI, they're just talking about bottom line gains and financial gains, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for financial gains. But to me, the next in line is the time gain. And then if you have that time, it's going to be up to you how to spend it. Some of that should absolutely be back in your firm and making sure it continues to grow and succeed. Some of that should absolutely involve a beach somewhere and family time and doing what you want to do outside the office. But that middle layer is focusing on your client population, and your community at large to see what you can do to make what a lot of times in PI is the worst moment of their life better. Because that's really, to me, the bottom line job of a personal injury professional.
That's a good point about it often being the worst point in their lives. This is related somewhat, I think, Alex, but talking about how AI can enhance communications with your clients, but not in any way compromising the attorney-client privilege, confidentiality, data privacy, all those professional requirements that the lawyers have.
Hmm. Well, let's start with what not to do. Don't build a chat bot and give it to your clients to ask questions about their case. It may seem tempting to do so. I've seen many businesses put public-facing chatbots out there at their own peril. The technology to secure that kind of free-form interface is frankly not there. We're reading every week new prompt injection hacks, new companies being embarrassed by their chatbots divulging information or being jailbroken. So don't do that. But what can you do to improve client communication and responsiveness? I would say it has to be oriented at the source, being the attorney, right? Use the existing communication channels that you verified, email, text messages, right? You can employ some automation when a client asks for a case update. AI can draft a response for you to review and then send out yourself. That's a very safe path. And it can do so very quickly, and then you're able to respond to your client's needs at a rate that previously just may not be feasible, especially in administrative law like workers' compensation, where you have huge caseloads and typically small case values. And making clients feel heard, understood, and giving them the information they need after you vetted it is a really great use case here. I would also take a look at workflow automation, so intake and follow-ups. There's so much critical information in these injury cases that the injured person just doesn't know to tell you. And so that kind of prompting and having a very thorough intake process assisted with AI, there's a lot of room there for improvement. And then there's also some simple things like following up a call with a next steps email, right? Something that, isn't always done. It takes time. It's sometimes rote. You have to explain things to people that you feel you shouldn't have to explain. Using AI to draft those based on the facts of the case and the call transcripts can be a very powerful tool to make sure that two-way communication with clients is happening on the regular.
So, JP, I'm going to jump off of what Alex was just saying. He specifically, referenced the kinds of tools you shouldn't be sharing with your clients. So the question for you is something like ChatGPT, which I mean, everybody uses, and tools like that. Why shouldn't what shouldn't lawyers just be using those? Why is that dangerous?
Um, so I will preface it by saying there is a time and place where it can be appropriate. So I myself I use Claude every day,
Me too.
but more on the transactional side. But for sure, what Alex just said, there are certain use cases, like definitely there was just a case in the Southern District, right, where a client was putting questions directly to an open uh, uh, generative AI model, and it was very clear that that was not privileged, and then that was disastrous for the case. Um, so beyond the privilege and confidentiality, there's these models are trained, general purpose. They're very good, lots of data, but they're not sort of laser focused on, especially if you're going to write a brief or you need to cite the authority. They're not going to be laser focused on getting you that data that is 100% correct, 100% recent on the case law, on the facts. So that's where you want to connect it to a professional database. You want to make sure that you have a vendor that's thinking about how to use this in the legal context. Third point, a lot of these commercial sort of consumer-facing solutions, they're question answer, they're chatbots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Litigation, obviously not. It's not a question answer paradigm a lot of the time. It's an unfolding process. Facts evolve, goals shift, context builds over time. For example, deposition. This is a place that Verbit plays in. It's not a single prompt. It's hours of testimony back and forth. It's unpredictable, and you need to track your both your preset objectives, but you need to evolve as the proceeding goes on. You may, if the witness says something you didn't expect, you want to catch those contradictions against their prior statements, surface their omissions, and then pivot your questioning. So obviously, you're not going to take like a ChatGPT and to give you that kind of level of strategic support. So you want to make sure that the tool you're bringing is the one that's going to support you getting to that better outcome and syncing with your case strategy.
So I see Brian and Rowan both nodding aggressively. I'm going to ask both of you to speak to that too. Brian, I'm going to start with you.
So when you're working in the legal space, you need to choose all of your vendors, regardless of type, very carefully, but especially in technology and especially in AI, because JP was right. And by the way, props for conducting a webinar from an airport. I know that's got to be distracting and you're rocking it. When it comes to these generalists AI, their job is to be right is secondary to sounding correct. So the phrase that makes the hairs on the back of my neck go up, and I'm sure everybody's experienced it, is when an AI bot says, "Oh, good catch. You're absolutely right." Because see, Rowan said it. That's exactly what happens when you ask a question, it pumps out nonsense or something like that sounds accurate and you call it out and it says, "Oh, I was wrong," with no responsibility, not like a person, not like an expert, but just to say, "Oh, that thing that I gave you was completely inaccurate and your statement is accurate." And you can get stuck in that loop if you're using tools that aren't specifically focused on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Rowan, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that exact response far too many times now.
Yep.
But it's interesting. It's speaking as well to what JP was talking about with depositions and bringing it back to mass document review in personal injury law. Really understanding how these generalist models work is ultimately they're trying to compress this information so that they can provide a response that looks right. But for tasks like depositions, as JP mentioned, but also document review, the purpose of document reviews is it's not just to get a summary. Perhaps when you just need to remind yourself what it's about, that makes sense. You can get a quick summary. But when you're actually going through the process of thorough document review, it's about the details, it's about the inconsistencies, it's the conflicting accounts. You don't want to simply be querying compressed information. You need to get across the entirety of this set of information. You can do it faster, but when you use these generalized products, you're just going to they are getting certainly more capable, and oftentimes you may get exactly what you need, but oftentimes you may not, and that's in a low fault tolerance area like the law. That's just really not good enough.
JP, question for you. How have you seen the PI space evolve over the last couple of years? Because what I'm sensing from what everybody's saying is just things are really moving faster and faster. So how are you seeing that space evolve at the last 2-3 years?
Yeah, so I'll go back to what I said earlier first. And it's not just PI, but it's every litigation. The explosion of data volume per case. What used to be a few hundred pages of medical records and maybe some photos. Now you have terabytes of evidence, video from multiple angles, telematics for vehicles, GPS logs. I feel like everyone has a fitness tracker today, and even feeds from medical devices. So, that's like orders of magnitude more data. It's just too much for manual review to get through without to handle without risk. So the firms that are staying competitive are leaning into this AI-assisted analysis to kind of get through it all, connect timelines, surface the facts to make or break the claim. Second, going back a few years, the trend has been, it's pulled back a bit, but towards remote testimony, virtual hearings. This, obviously started in earnest during COVID, but now it's, from what we're seeing, is baked in. Depositions might be hybrid with witnesses, counsels, court reporters. You might even have different countries involved. Again, that's created a demand for technology that can capture testimony with this high fidelity And you want to be able to, now it's digitized, so you want to make it instantly searchable, flag issues when proceedings happening. You no longer have to wait for days later for when the transfer arrives. Uh, I'd say the third thing is it's really shifting client expectations. So going back to what I said about consumers before, like everyone is seeing the technology, and their expectations are correspondingly going up. So injured clients, many of them they themselves may use technology every day. Now they expect that same responsiveness from other service providers, including the legal team, to communicate with them, update them with the same speed and transparency that they get from their, the myriad consumer apps that they're using. So that's putting more pressure again on firms to streamline workflows, keep things organized in a way that's shareable, and turn around answers quickly without sacrificing accuracy or care.
So I want to talk a little bit about what probably is the elephant in the room for lawyers, the fear that AI is going to replace them, right? I mean, because I'm a lawyer years ago as a junior associate, and I did document review. That's all I did was document review. And obviously now we have tools that you don't have your junior associates necessarily doing that work. So Rowan, I'm going to start with you. How can you speak to this fear that AI is just going to replace all of us?
Yeah, well, I think there is some good news. I think law is actually uniquely placed compared to other professions. It's not purely an arena just for getting tasks done. It actually functions, you go to your lawyer almost as a bit of an insurance policy. You're bringing in a qualified, accountable person to own the strategy and the work. And so that accountability can't really be automated. There will certainly be some shifts, but we're already seeing the legal profession start to write the rules. So, JP already mentioned it, but this case in New York last month, I believe, ruling that conversations with a regular AI tool aren't protected by attorney-client privilege. It's interesting for many reasons, but it's also interesting because of this specific question. So, this is the legal profession sort of making or putting a line in the sand that an AI tool is not a lawyer. It holds no license. It owes no duty of confidentiality. So I think that's a clear sign of things to come. The legal profession is not going to go down without a fight. There's certainly going to be some shifts, but I do think the profession is uniquely placed.
So I saw some heads nodding. Brian, do you want to respond to that?
So this is not a fear that is unique to AI. This is a fear that exists every time there is a significant technological move forward. So for us, before assembly software, there was needles, and before needles, there was pins. We've actually been in business for 40 years. And our original system was convincing lawyers to leave paper and to literally buy computers and start with a digital case management platform. And that argument happened then in the mid 80s. So what we've been doing is we've constantly been delivering tools that increase efficiency and allows the system to do more and more of the tasks that the lawyers and the case managers and the paralegals and the intake specialists have been doing. Has that led to all of our clients shrinking in size? No. I got 40 years of data that says it goes the other way. When you have powerful tools like this and they're implemented properly, there are growing pains, but that leads to an expansion of capability for those that are able to take advantage of it. Now, there will be firms that don't. And that's going to be a different story. But for those that dive in, they're not going to suddenly contract. They're going to succeed, they're going to thrive, and they're going to grow.
So Alex, I'm going to ask you to speak to that too. And maybe address not just why lawyers aren't going to go away, but that other point that Brian just made about law firms that don't adapt, what happens to them?
Yeah, well, let me preface by saying that the AI tech revolution is orders of magnitude larger and more significant than computers, the internet, office productivity tools, and the cloud. So going from paper to digital, is a fraction of the transformation that going from no AI to AI is going to offer law firms. Now, I will say that the replacement of lawyers is going to happen by other lawyers, right? Some lawyers will be replaced by ones that know how to use AI effectively. Other lawyers that misuse AI and suffer the consequences will be replaced by ones that use it properly and mitigate the risks. So it is, in my opinion, a very high stakes environment with this new kinds of these capabilities, which are staggering. The latest AI models are smarter than PhD students. They're making scientific discoveries, theoretical math and physics discoveries. They're able to program better than any programmer out there, for example. So the intelligence is exploding, and there's a balance to be struck of using it and using it responsibly and using it safely. You have to have those two hand in hand. You can't go too fast and skip all the safeguards because you might get disbarred doing that. You might make way too many mistakes and suffer the consequences. So I do think there is a replacement, but it's largely due to competition. And ultimately the fundamentals are the same. You have to keep up with technology. You have to keep up with the trends in the industry that really determine whether clients hire you or not.
Okay, thank you. We are now getting close to the hour. I want to ask each of you to share with our audience what you see as the most important takeaway for them today. Like when they turn off their computer and they go back to their work, what do you want them to remember? Like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need to act on. This is what I really need to focus on. So JP, I'm going to start with you. What do you see as the most important takeaway for attendees today on this topic?
Yeah, I wish I had something more original to say, but it's what I always say. You need to embrace it. It's coming. It's coming no matter what. I was just a legal week in New York and I think Rowan was as well, maybe others. But it's you're really starting to see an explosion beyond this sort of chatbot paradigm that we've kind of seen for the first couple of years because the models are really getting that good. Um, I can't predict where the profession's going to go, but I do know that these tools are all going to change things, and the rate of change as I've been seeing it the last couple of years, it's only increasing. So you know you don't know where it's going to go, but what I do know is you need to be conversant. You need to treat it. It's just like email or online research or more recently technology assisted review. Like maybe at the beginning, like you can say, oh no, I'm not going to do this, but eventually it's like it's you're going to be it's just going to be such a sea change between such a difference between those that do and those that don't, and um, you don't want to get left behind. So that's what I always say to this question, and I don't I don't see that changing in the near future.
So you mentioned being at Legal Week, and I know a bunch of people were there. Are you seeing people becoming more receptive when you talk to lawyers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was on another panel yesterday, and we had the CEO of one of the top white shoe firms in the country there, and the question I posed was, so what's changed in the conversation? And this wasn't personal injury specifically; it was just in litigation, and maybe not a surprise, but she very clearly said that the conversation has shifted from should we to how do we, and how do we do it faster, and like very clear, very clear. I was on and then talking to just kind of to give you a sense of this is not just private practice. There was talking to a judge earlier today who's admittedly very steeped in AI, but like you might think that in the judiciary they're like, oh no because we've seen all these hallucination cases, but really, even the judiciary, the federal judiciary today, is they're looking into these things. They're saying, how can we take these outdated processes? How can we take these very real pain points and address it with technology today? So really, like, I'm seeing it across the board: government, private, public. Everyone is like very much on board with this. We gotta figure out how to use this to make ourselves better. And that's something I'm not even sure I saw this 12 months ago, but it's definitely happening.
That's interesting. Rowan, what would you say is the most important takeaway for people?
Sure. I'd obviously reiterate what JP is saying. However, I'd make one additional point, is that despite all of this, it is still early. You have not been left behind yet. I think in a few years, we're going to look back on this period and just go, geez, it was incredibly early at that time. The amount of lawyers today that have drastically changed their entire life as a lawyer is still very small. So my key takeaway would be, get started now. It's okay to start small. Find the champions at your firm to start trying different tools. I'd be wary of things that try and lock you in immediately to full firm rollouts. Find good partners, find the champions, start trying to measure that ROI and build from there.
So I know a lot of smaller firms really have been a little late to the party on this. So your advice to them is, you're good. It's not too late. Just now's the time to step up.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. The most lawyers are in that boat, undoubtedly. But having said that, the best time was yesterday. The next best time is today. And so I would start now.
Okay, thank you. Alex, takeaway for the attendees. Most important thing you want them to remember.
Yeah, I would echo that starting small is key, and focusing on safety, verification, grounding, all those practices. It's not a magic black box that gives you answers. So start small, stay safe, and you get what you pay for. If you're using free out of the box, consumer grade, generic AI to help you with your firm's processes, your results are going to be poor. If you use specialized tools, especially specialized for your practice, your area of law, then you're going to have really good results. Then you're going to have zero hallucinations, and you're going to be able to stay ahead of the pack.
Okay, thank you. And Brian, most important takeaway for our attendees today.
I'm going to cheat and I'm going to give you 3, but I'm going to give them fast. First is to choose your tools wisely. Just like Alex was saying, make sure you're looking at stuff that's specific for your vertical, for what you're trying to accomplish. Talk to the experts, call the folks at Mary, call the folks at Gemini, talk to them about what it is that you're looking for, because they are working for you specifically. Second, train, educate yourself, your staff, make sure that people understand what your policies are for the firm and how to best use the tools that you've selected. And then third, verify, because at the end of the day, you are responsible for the output. No AI tool has passed the bar. It's your law license that's on the line. So take the time and make sure that all of this benefit you're getting is accurate, and then go ahead and enjoy that benefit once you've done that verification.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate all of you joining us today to talk about this subject. I know it's a fast-moving topic, and probably if we got together in 3 months, there'd be all kinds of different things to talk about. I want to thank Mary Technology for being our title sponsor today. Thank JP, Rowan, Brian, and Alex all for taking the time to join us for this. You'll see on your screen, there's our information on all of our speakers. I encourage you to reach out to them. I know the information is not for Brian, but if you reach out to McKay, I'm sure he can pass it along. So please do go ahead and reach out if you have questions for them, particularly specific questions about your practice. I know they'd be happy to help. Thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.